it. Now that I have figured out YouTube, hooray, hooray, we'll get more of these up online so you can go back to the replay. All right, so I am using just a piece of white cardstock. Now, all I was able to lay my hands on today was textured cardstock, and sometimes stamping on textured cardstock doesn't work as well. But if you've ever looked at a piece of textured cardstock, usually the back side is at least a little bit smoother. So I've just gone and flipped my paper over so that I've got the smoother side. And I'm going to grab my stamp and my ink. I'm going to ink this baby up. So if you're playing along with me, following the bouncing ball, you do want to grab your largest stamp and whatever ink color you want to use with that stamp. And the way I always think about doing random stamping is building triangles. So I'm going to start by stamping my lemon here, my lemon here, and my lemon here. So if I were to play connect the dots and link those up, I'm drawing a triangle. And so that then helps me position the next one. So I've got these two here to make a triangle. I'm going to come out here. And I'm just going to go about covering my whole piece of paper, making up triangles with my stamped image. Now remember, if you ever look at a piece of printed pattern paper, very rarely do your stamped images just go marching across the page. So you do want to twist and turn your image so that they're going in different directions. The other key thing to do is when you get to the edge, like I'm just about to do, it's okay to go off the edge because that gives it that little bit more realistic. Sorry about this there. So I just rolled right around my page. Oh, I didn't stamp cleanly. Can I fix it? No, I'm not even going to try. Imperfection makes it look like it's handmade. All good. So I've just gone about rotating all the way around and filling in. Look at how nice and even that looks. That yellow vibrates a little bit. I'm sorry about that, guys. I didn't think of that until after I stamping. The next color will look better. So even though we call this technique random stamping, there is a method to the madness. So there is that thinking about triangles, twisting and turning, and going off the page. That was my largest stamp. Now I'm going to go down to my medium stamp. And this time I just got a little orange slice that I'm going to do in orange ink. And once again, you are going to think about building triangles. But the nice thing about having your first layer already done is that the triangles are going to be a little bit more natural because you're filling in the gaps. So for example, I'm going to start here, here, and here. Just by filling in those empty spaces, I've already built a triangle without even really thinking about it. So again, I'm just going to cover my entire page with these delicious orange slices and this delicious ink. I am absolutely in love with the VersaFine Clair. It's fairly new to me, and even though it's a pigment ink, it does dry pretty quickly, and the color vibrancy is insane. And the consistency of the stamp. Since I've been using it, I have rarely had a misstamp, with this guy as an exception. But you know what? There, I just fixed it. I made a bunch of cards on the weekend, last weekend, just for my own mental sanity. And I stamped, I want to say 60 or 70 cards with this VersaFine Clair ink, and every single one perfect every time. So, and that's not because I'm an experienced stamper. I mean, that helps, but the ink is just phenomenal. So there you have it. There's round 2. You can see how it's easier as you go down in size. If you were to start with small and cover your page, you'd be really hard pressed to get these big guys in big enough. So that's why I always start at the biggest one and work my way down to the smallest one. So the last thing I'm going to add is the little leaf. I've got this beautiful green Oasis ink. And because this is a little stamp and we've got lots of spaces, it's going to be really easy to make a boo-boo. Sorry for my head there, had to fix that leaf. As Matt says, just put a picture on top of it, which we can absolutely do. Look, he's learning stuff. He gets it. Yay, Matt. And once again, if you look at your third stamp, you're building triangles without even knowing it. Go off the side, twist and turn so that my leaves are in different directions. And you can always go back in and add more. But look at how beautiful and how easy. That was like less than 5 minutes that we created our own pattern paper. So if you're struggling with making your own pattern or with finding pattern paper that's perfect for those layouts, but you've got the perfect stamp set, then just go ahead and make your own pattern paper. I've done it today and I've asked you guys to do it today on white, but there's no reason why you have to. You could absolutely do it on colored cardstock. You could do it on dark cardstock as long as you're okay with more of that watercolor look to it. You could absolutely do this monochromatic. So maybe I could have done everything in the yellow. That probably would have been hard on the eyes, but in theory, I could have done everything in yellow and just had the stamps do their thing and speak for themselves. But I mean, especially with the lemons, I love the bright colors and everything else. So that's it for stamping. Let me show you some tricks on how you can now make this into a super easy one-page layout. So I'm going to grab my paper trimmer and I'm going to trim this down to 11 by 11. We're going to mount it on that colored piece of cardstock that I asked you to have handy. So I'm just going to take this down. And yes, you are cutting off some of your beautiful artwork, but keep those. I would probably go back in and maybe add a little bit more orange on here, but then I can use that on cards, or I could use that on a different layout. So that's 11 that way, and then 11 this way. I also have done this technique where we have done a what they call a one-sheet wonder. So you create your own background paper and then you follow a template and you cut it up into all little bits of pieces so that you can make anywhere from 10 to 15 cards using your random stamp paper. So don't ever feel like you have to wait for the perfect pattern paper. You can make your own. Keep your paper trimmer out. So my plan is that I am going to mount my layout onto a piece of blue cardstock. And I'm going to want some photo mats, but it's kind of heartbreaking sometimes when you're doing this technique that all of this paper is going to go unseen. So I'm going to share with you a little secret that I have used both in scrapbooking and card making. And it will give you some extra paper. So we know that when we place this centered, we have approximately a 1/2 inch border around the whole side, because this is 11 by 11, this is 12 by 12, and so that gives us a 1/2 inch on each side. So take this away. I'm going to put this in my paper trimmer, and this is where you really need to use the measurements on your arm. I am going to put this in, and I'm going to line it up at the 10-inch mark. So that's going to give me a 2-inch border around the outside. I'm going to move my blade, and let me get it up on the camera here. I'm going to move my blade. If you look at the handle, that is where the point of your blade is. So I'm going to line the handle of my blade up with a 10-inch mark on this part of my trimmer. Line this up at the 10-inch mark, and then I'm just going to gently push down, and I'm going to push up to the top, but I'm not going all the way. I'm only going to go to the 2-inch mark. So I'm going to do this and stop. That way you've got just a partial cut there. All right, now I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees, and I'm going to do the same thing. So I've got it lined up at the 10-inch mark here, my blade at the 10-inch mark here, gently push down, go up to the 2-inch mark, lift up, and now you can see what I'm doing. We're going to cut the center out of this piece of paper. So just rotate it one more time. 10, 10 to 2. And now our cuts should be starting to line up with each other. And last but not least, one more side. And there you have it. You've got this centerpiece now cut out that you can use for titles, you can use for photo mats. I'm just going to go very quickly grab a tape runner and we can start to put this together. So bear with me a sec.
Right, yes.
That's the joy, the absolute joy of doing these things at the store, is that I can just go and grab from my toolbox. All right, so now we're going to put that away. I am going to flip it over. I'm just going to put adhesive around the outside. You don't want to put it in the middle because you know that the middle is empty. And just zip it all the way along. And then I'm just going to center this like so. This way we are maximizing our paper. Now I can take this blue. I did a contrast, I pulled a contrasting green. It's not quite the best match for this, but for today's purposes, it works just fine. I'm going to cut down 2 mats that are going to be 5 1/4 by 7 1/4 so that we can put 2 5 by 7s on it. You can go ahead and cut your mats whatever size you want or whatever size you think your photos will work. So 5 1/4 by 7 1/4. So that's just 1/4 inch bigger than my 5 by 7. Actually, this one maybe I'll do 4 by 6. So let's go 6 1/4 by 4 1/4. And I can arrange my layout just like so. And you can add your title down here. You can add new book drops that I've shown you before. I actually had a little surprise. We got in some more luster polish, and this orange would be perfect for embellishing this page. And I probably should have done it before I stuck it down. Let's see if I can lift this up. That was easy. Need one of those stapled buttons. So I'm just going to take some of this luster polish because I want to add some orange sparkle. Get my, so just scooping a little bit of this fabulous sparkly stuff. Don't need a lot. I'm just going to ink up my edges. Sticking to the tape behind. But I don't know if you can see it well on the camera. It's got a real nice little sparkle to it. Ooh, it's so pretty. So pretty. All right, let me put the lid back on. Put that back in here just till I can go clean it out. You could just do that technique with ink as well. I just like having that little bit of sparkle. Attach it back to my page. Let's see. I'm going to try this on a scrap piece first. The orange even shows up on that blue. It may not show up super well on the camera. It's a little bit darker, obviously, than on the white, but look at how it sparkles and shines. So I'm going to go ahead and edge my mats as well. You can see I'm going a really long way without adding more of the product to the sponge. You can get a lot with a very little bit. We'll do my green one. All right, and now I can just lay them down on my layout. I'm gonna set this one like so.
Yeah.
This one, I'm not going to put tape on this side here because I'm going to want to be able to tuck my photo underneath. You could also pop that up with foam tape if you want, or foam dots to give it some elevation.
Yes, well, that could work too, yeah.
And there you go. Add a title, add a little journaling block. You've got a simple and easy one-page layout. You want to do the same thing for a two-page layout, just repeat and, or I was going to say, just rinse and repeat. So there you go. Now that was really quick. We've only been online here for about 20-ish minutes. So I want to show you something else that you can do with random stamping. I already talked about making powder paper and just covering your whole piece with the random stamps. I've talked about taking that piece once it's done, cutting it apart and making cards out of it, or just using it as a strip. I'm going to show you something else that you can do with the random stamping technique, but really creates a unique look. So I've got my white paper again, and again, I will probably eventually cut it down so that it can do a similar technique on the page. I'm going to flip it over to the smooth side. And this time I am using 3 little stamps from the Dandy Day. Here, that's probably better. You can see it better. The Dandy Day stamp set from Ballantyne. These little mice are the absolute cutest. And I've got the little mouse with the dandelion. I've got the large dandelion and the small. So he's my big, he's my medium, he's my small. And I'm going to do some different colors. So I've got Twilight, which is like a navy blue. I have Paradise, which is that bright electric blue. And then I've got Pine Cone, which I used last week on the wood grain, but I think he would be perfect for the mouse. So with this technique, what we're going to do is instead of covering the whole area, we're just going to build a strip on the diagonal across the page. Once again, I'm going to start with my large stamp. And if it helps you, you can take some scraps of paper and just kind of put it there to remind you that we're not going that far out. That sometimes I find distracting, but if that's helped you, then absolutely go for it. So this time, I'm going to start up at the top and just walk my little mice down the page. Oh, it didn't stamp super well, but. So it looks like all of these little mice are just blowing in the wind. I went off the sides. I didn't quite get him up here, so let's put a little guy off the top here. And now I can see where I've got a few little empty spots where I might want to fill in. It is a little bit less about the triangles at this point, but it's just giving you that idea of making the trail down your page. Next, I'm going to go to the large dandelion, which is my medium stamp. I'm going to do him in the Twilight. Yeah, there we go. So again, that same concept where I'm now filling in the holes between my initial stamp. Twisting and turning so that he's going in different directions, because dandelions, when they blow in the wind, they don't ever go in the same direction. Here. Like so. And then I have a teeny tiny little baby dandelion that I'm going to finish this off with. This was the Paradise. Just test it. There we go. Now, maybe one more. So how cute is that? And then you could go and cut your photo mat again. This isn't the right color, but you could then just put your photo mat on there, put your title up here. We have some of the new Say It With stamps from Photo Play. Let's see. I think I have it here. Yeah. Oh yeah. I have the stamp set that's called Wish, which goes perfectly with the dandelion motif. If I can get it out of the bag. Oops, my dies. So you could die cut your title to go up here, but I'm going to stamp because I'm in love with these stamps. And because I want it to stand up, I'm going to use the brighter blue. Yeah, brighter blue? Yeah, sure, why not? All right. And then I can just stamp my title like so. And there you have it. So that's how it's nice and easy to make your own pattern paper, make a 1-page or even 2-page layout with your stamps. It gives you great versatility with your stamps and helps you take them even further. I don't think of them just being on top, think of them being your background as well. So that's all I've got. I'm gonna unmute everyone in case you have any questions, and otherwise, we'll sign off for another Saturday. Hope you're all having an awesome National Scrapbooking Day. Any questions, everyone? Or lots of thumbs up?
Thank you, Sheri. That's awesome.
Awesome.
So pretty.
I encourage you to use it often and pull it out of your bag of tricks because it can really take you a lot of fun places. All right, signing off, everyone. Happy Saturday. Enjoy the rest of the National Scrapbooking Day. And we will see
Thank you,
next
Sheri.
week.
Thanks,
Take care,
Sheri.
everyone.
Bye.